Welcome back to All For United WFC. I'm sorry, I played that intro then. It was so loud in my headphones. Completely threw me off. Anyway, welcome to the preview. It's a day early. I know Fiona took all of the responsibility on the tweet, but there are other factors as well as to why we have moved this to today. Because of me and Barry as well. It was easier for us to be doing it tonight as well as rather than tomorrow. So we're a day early, but why not? We're still doing the preview, aren't we? And this is the panel that we always wanted for this Everton preview as well. Get all your thoughts, and over the next, we'll be live for about 45-50 minutes today, slightly shorter because Barry's got to shoot off and do another show. And me and Fiona are just busy. So we're going to try and wrap this up in 45-50 minutes or so. I want to come to you then, Fiona. Obviously, I usually ask the question to opposition fans, kind of what you're the feeling around the club is and things like that at the moment. I'll ask you firstly, obviously, we'll just go off the back of the transfer window. How are you feeling after the window from an Everton point of view? Because not many ins, or well, a few ins, and one out, obviously, with Gio. How are you feeling about your window as a whole so far?
I don't feel like it was our greatest window. We were interested in two different forwards. And of course, I think that's where we need an extra option. If Snoise is out, we lose that option completely. But it's halfway through the season. We're still a very new team. I think bringing in too many new characters will disrupt the sort of harmony that the team have got into now and the routine they've got. We managed to sign Claire Weaver, who was on loan from Fortuna permanently for 2.5 years. And yeah, we lost Gio. Arsenal had a big sort of free Gio claim because we weren't playing her for full matches. Surprise, surprise, she's not played a full match for them because she's injured.
I saw a lot of that, and there was a lot of that about United as well. The free honour, free Mary, and free written, all this rubbish that they were coming out with. But yeah, she said she's injured. Like,
hasn't Mary started every game for you?
Yeah, it's because apparently, well, it's the stupidity from opposition fans, particularly Arsenal fans. They were just annoyed that we didn't give them Russo.
Arsenal just offered everyone. The fact that they were offering up Blackstenius on that Russo transfer, which then wouldn't change their forward depth at all.
I was going to say that we didn't touch on it yesterday, but I don't remember you mentioned it. But yeah, in part of the Russo deal, many forwards were offered apparently. Stina Blackstenius potentially being one of them. A couple of other players that were named as well. So interesting. We were after Stina, and she chose Arsenal. So,
if you're looking for another forward option to support what you've got, don't give up another forward.
Literally one of their only strikers they've got, and they're willing to give her up to get Russo. To see exactly as T said, panicking. That's why they came in on the last day of the season, not earlier in the window, which is what I said on Monday's show. Yeah, I mean, you say it will be wise. she's not match ready yet, so I don't know how many minutes she's going to get at Arsenal anyway. So it just seemed a bit of a. I don't know.
About 45 for Everton, but she's got this ongoing injury that could lead to hernia if she overstretches, which would be months and months out, needing surgery.
Well, there we are. So Everton do have some good loanies, though, which we'll get to in a second when we talk about your kind of danger players and things like that. But one player I wanted to touch on, and obviously we know some things obviously off the record that we can't say on here, but a player that obviously that links us both together is Emily Ramsey. And I think everyone was expecting this window that transfer would become permanent. Obviously, it didn't in the end. What are your kind of thoughts on that, Fiona? Do you expect it just to sign in the summer now? Do you think that's pretty much a done deal and we're kind of waiting? Obviously, things off the record that we can't say on here, but what do you think to that one? Because everyone was expecting it to happen.
Wouldn't be shocked if there was some sort of pre-contract agreement. But why should a club play for someone who's going to be free in 6 months' time?
Arsenal, if you're watching.
But it just seems absolutely crazy unless the rumours about Mary Earps leaving in the summer come to fruition. United might be keeping that possibility open.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just more of a. I think you're right. I think there's probably some agreement for the summer because I think it's a shame for her because she's pretty wasted at United because obviously we've got Mary there, Sophie's ahead of her. I can't see her getting many minutes, if any.
Which is crazy because if you look at the stats so far, she's the top shot blocker in the WSL.
Somebody did say that to me when that rumours was coming around at the start of January, that we'd regret that, letting Ramsey go. But I'm not too sure. I'd rather.
Yeah, one of our supporters from Everton does like a weekly Everton women blog, and he's just done a summary of our best starting 11, and it shows the statistics that she is the top shot blocker, which is great for us and a big loss for you guys.
Potentially. I think she's suited to Everton, to be fair. I think it works for her, her career as well, because she's guaranteed minutes there. Certainly this season anyway. For the
competition between her and Courtney Brosnan is great. They're pushing each other to be their best all the time. And you can see even when they're on the bench, they're there supporting the other keeper rather than that sometimes hostility you get when they're being chosen over me, etc.
Oh, exactly. And yeah, it's great to see. It's good to see our loanees doing well. Speaking of which, we do have a couple of loan shows coming up for you. Keep an eye out for those. I'm not going to say when they are and who they're for and who's on them. So you'll have to check our Twitter for that, which is coming up very soon. So keep an eye out for that one. Right, let's talk about the last meeting then, or last two meetings, because we've already played twice this season already. Once at LSV, obviously once at Walton Park. 3-0 obviously in the league, 4-2 in the cup, but that cup game was a bit of a free-for-all. Just play everybody and just let them do what they want to do. So Barry, throwing it over to yourself, to start with from a United point of view, can we take anything from those two meetings? Two very different games. Obviously, the Conti Cup was a rotated side, and to be fair, we knew we were pretty much out by that point. And the league game was a comfortable kind of 3-0 win with what you would expect our starting 11 to be. I'm just double checking because I think Honor was the only one that missed that game. I think we had, it was. So we had our usual 11. Oh, no, we didn't. Russo didn't play either. Am I missing something? My memory's going. I won't say it, but my memory's awful.
We played at Walton Hall Park. I can't remember if that was Cup or League. I don't remember playing at Lee Sports Village.
Apparently not. Russo came off the bench at Walton Hall Park. Paris led the line with Garcia and Galton outside.
Yeah, I know she came off the bench, but she definitely didn't start.
Yes, and Maria in there as well. So, Barry, from a United point of view, can we take anything from those games as come up to now? Obviously, a lot's changed since then. We've signed a couple of players. Galton, we don't know. We'll get to her in a second. But what do you take from the last two meetings with Everton this season?
Well, I can take lots of things. The first thing I'd take is this to Ian's put. So that's the first thing. Rambo can't play on Sunday, so she's still on loan. So that was a masterstroke by Mark Skinner. Honestly, I believe that's the only reason he didn't bother to allow her to go. It was just that we knew this game was coming up. So therefore, they're not going to have the superb services of Emily Ramsey in goal. So that'll be part one. If I'm honest, when it comes to what can we take over these last couple of games, I would take it back over a history. I've had a brief little look over all of our games against Everton. We've played them 12 times and we have lost how many times? Fee? Once. Absolutely. That was in the FA Cup. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the one where we played sort of really late in the year?
I can't remember. Yes, there's that many games. We play you that many times in every cup going. It's like the joke now when there's a draw. Oh, it's going to be Man United.
There you go. So out of those, we've only lost once. We've won 11 out of those 12. Now, that's not a reason to be complacent, but the form guide tells us you'd expect United to win. That's part one. In terms of your team, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you go your strongest side. I would imagine that we would be looking at someone like Earps in goal. I'd be expecting the usual back four, Battier and Blundell, along with Mayat and Millie. I'd be expecting Zelly and Ladd to be starting. I'd be expecting Tooney in front of them. And I would be expecting, if form is anything to go by, I would be expecting Paris and Russo and probably Garcia to be starting. So that's the sort of team I would be expecting. I hope you're taking notice there, Mr. Skinner. That's what we're looking for. But we won't be too upset if you make one change from that lineup. You don't have to do everything I say, otherwise people really will start to believe that you're listening to me. But yeah, I don't feel like... I'm not panicked playing Everton. not panicked playing them, but we do have to be careful, because if they take it into that sort of complacency, thinking about how we played 12 games, won 11, it's easy to get to a point where you think it's too easy. We don't have to turn up for this game. And if we do that, someone could argue maybe that's what happened with Reading, maybe that's what happened with Leicester. And as a result, we only had the 1-0 wins there. So if we go there and play as we should play and could play and can play, we'll beat Everton. And I don't say that to be glib or because she's watching and deep down she wants to, thump me one now. I don't say it for those reasons. I say it because the form guide tells us that. But equally, if we take them and be too complacent, Everton have shown that they can win and they can score. The one thing I can pretty much guarantee is it won't be a draw.
Well, like you said, there forms anything. If previous records anything to go off, then yeah, there shouldn't be a draw in this game. The fact that we're at home, obviously, it's something I'll get to in a second. Actually, obviously, our home form in particular. But Fiona, what's the thoughts of Everton fans going into this game? Obviously, we spoke a little bit about Sage. You said you're not quite looking forward to it as much as maybe you were. Obviously, I think your recent result against Birmingham probably has something to do with that. Obviously, the 1-0 loss there. What's the feeling? I'm not going to say confident because I can't imagine that you fully are, but are you still hopeful, I guess is the word? You can get something out of it.
Playing the likes of United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea. We're sitting in 5th at the moment and they're the teams above us, so it's always a challenge. We've lost you already twice in the season. But I think there's a lot of hope in that after the 1-0 loss to Birmingham at the weekend, there's going to be a lot of fight. The girls are going to want to go out there and prove themselves. And I think using that fight in the right way gives us sort of hope that the girls will put on their best, do their best. And we have been bridging those gaps. Some of our scores against yourself and your team haven't really shown that, but it was only a 1-0 at Arsenal. Chelsea score, you could say they were a little bit lucky with the referee. But we are bridging that gaps and our performance is improving. In our recent games, we've had 2 3-0 victories and a 3-2. But our scoring threats have come from all over the pitch. We've had Gabby George score, Karen Homeguard score, Meg Finnegan score. So we've had centre-backs scoring goals.
Hasn't she just won Player of the Month as well? Did I read
she
that?
Has. Yeah, although I'm not quite sure how Williams. You'll protest this. Got Goal of the Month when you've got goals from Gabby and Aggie, both outside the box, top corner screamers.
Oh, Barry, do you want to put a case for the defence there? The Williams has got. I'm not going to lie. I've not seen the 2 Everton ones, so I can't judge. I'm going to have to quickly Google or YouTube these while you're.
I feel like one or two things has happened here. Rachel Williams' goal for a start was not just about when it was scored. There was a lot of skill put in that. And when I say skill, I suppose the word I'm really looking for is composure. Composure that she showed to be able to knock that ball to the side, not just once, not just twice, not just 3 times, but even for a 4th, to find that gap. And then to lift that ball with the pressure that she was under at that point, with just minutes to go against Reading and the knowledge we could lose those points. All of that combined helped me to understand why it is that Rachel Williams won. Now, I would love to sit here and say to you that when it comes to voting for these things, I would sit there and watch every single goal. However, I can confirm I would not. If I was to look at that list and I see the name Rachel Williams and I see there's no other Man United players on there, I ain't fussed. I'm going to click on Rachel Williams. And why am I going to do that? Because football is tribal. And that's exactly what we do. So point 2 could be that even if Everton have done incredibly well, what Everton would then be relying on is other supporters of other teams clicking on the Everton player. And the problem you've got then is, well, if Arsenal have got a player that's in there for the top goals, then they're going to go for the Arsenal player. They're not going to choose the Everton player. So that can be a bit of a tricky one. And you don't want it to be a popularity contest. But at the moment, Manchester United are in that sort of situation. And plus, it's Rachel Williams. Nobody expected for Rachel to be fighting for these sort of awards at this time of the season. You know, we expect
I quite rate Rachel Williams. She gets a lot of slam. But to be at the place she is at her age is a
And
massive,
scoring consistently as well.
Yeah. People are like, oh, she doesn't score goals, but she does. And she scores them when nobody expects them. But I think that Reading goal was a little bit of shoddy. There's a bit of shoddy defending in there that helped.
You're going to sound like me with the Russo back heel if you keep saying that. I've just watched the Gabby George one, by the way. That is a hell of a strike.
The Aggie Beaver Jones one is pretty much identical.
Is it in the same game versus Reading?
No, different game. It was against.
How far out was it, Connor?
The Gabby George one looks about 25, 30. It's right into the top.
Yards.
Into the top, into the top right as well. Well, no. It's a
no,
shot.
Did she do it on a volley?
No, she made a good run, though, to be fair.
Made a good run, but it wasn't a volley, just straight up off the floor.
No, it's rode the tackle of one, took it past another, and then right foot into the top right. It's a great foot. I mean, to be fair, that's a hell of a goal. From a player that I wouldn't have thought would be hitting them from there.
She was a Man United Academy striker.
That's why she's so good, you see.
But, no, yeah. We
do.
And then Aggie Beaver Jones is an identical goal.
I was going to say, it's anything like that one.
Same corner.
There you go then. So yeah, and that's another thing. So the Everton vote has been split into two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they're all
goal. So at that point, you just pick who's your favourite player from Everton. So that's why Rachel Williams has won.
The way I did it is I went, I'm going to vote Gabby for Player of the Month, and then Aggie for goal.
So other people have done the opposite.
Yeah.
That would have made the most sense.
But listen, the reason why all of these goals are there on Goal of the Month is because they're good goals. That's the whole point of it. So I don't think we can look at any of those competitions in general. The goals aren't good quality goals. So, fair play.
No, 100%. And we briefly touched on Rachel Williams as Sand Devil saying there about, Rachel was key to Spurs last season. I wonder why they struggled. That's obviously why they've obviously gone out and got Beth England now, but they were lacking goals in the first half of the season. Missing Williams is definitely a factor in that. And I agree with I agree to an extent, but I think I agree with what John Commode said on Wednesday night, yesterday, that it's tough when we've only played 2 games. Like you're basing a month on 2 games. I'm not a huge fan of the player of the month award when it's only a couple of games, because that's 180 minutes. It's not exactly over 4 or 5 games, so I don't fully rate that too much. But all deserving players for both awards, for goal and for player as well.
Just to say, Connor, TJ's put on here about volleys. If I'm not mistaken, that didn't win, obviously, Goal of the Month for WSL, but Chelsea's Goal of the Month, it did win. And my understanding is that's across the whole club. So that's quite cool.
I'm assuming you're referring to the one against us.
I mean, I hope so. Otherwise, I made an absolute idiot of myself. We definitely had one that was voted as Goal of the Month. And I'm going to assume it was that one. But she's very good. She might have scored a couple of good ones.
Yeah, and that makes a good point. Exactly what you were just saying, Barry. From an Everton point of view, with the goals, we had exactly the same issue from a player of the month. It was split between Honor and Haley from United fans. I just didn't vote because I couldn't pick between either of them. So, and I'm not a huge fan of these things, but there we are. We might as well talk briefly about Rachel Williams, Barry, while we're on that kind of line of conversation. Do you think she's going to have more of an impact moving forward? Obviously, we're looking at this game. Obviously, we can talk about rotation and everything else. But do you think if anyone's deserving of more minutes, obviously Williams is the one that's shown, in recent games coming off the bench, that she can provide that as well. Do you see her involved on Sunday? Obviously, we don't know what's happening with Galton yet. I'm reliably informed that there's nothing too much wrong with her. She's not fully out and is going to be out for a while. So I'd expect to see her back soonish. But Barry, for yourself, Williams, would you expect to see much of her this weekend? Do you think it's another option we can utilise? I think she actually scored against Everton, the 4-2 Conte game, if I'm not mistaken. She did. She scored the second goal in that one.
She did. No, she's rubbish. Of course she's going to be involved and do well. I think that Rachel Williams is quickly turning into one of the signings of the season. I feel that when the dust settles and the smoke clears and all of the signings emerge from their smoky haze, the person that will be held aloft on the shoulders will probably be someone like May Laetitia, who has settled in incredibly well and become a bedrock of the defence for Manchester United. So I feel like she is probably the signing of the season. However, I genuinely believe that out of the rest of the signings that we've had, they need to have some sort of battle royal or Royal Rumble as to which person is going to be the next best signing of the season. Because you could argue that there's been a few. And I would argue that Rachel Williams is up there, Keats is up there, in terms of goal return, if nothing else. So we've got Garcia's been doing some fantastic bits down the right as well. I feel like they're definitely up for grabs. So although Maya may be the main one, I think there's some players there that have really done well. And I think Rachel Williams is one of those. For me, should she be involved? Absolutely. You know, we was having a discussion. You might have seen it tweeted. I tagged in All for United because I wanted to try and get some more people in there. But people are having this conversation about whether or not Nikita Parris should be dropped, basically, and whether Leon should be playing on that left slot for the moments while Galton isn't playing. And I threw the question out there. Feel free to find it and have an answer of it yourself if you'd like to. But is it really a question? Is it a questionable decision about the squad rotation? And I don't feel like it is really, because I feel like out of the players that we've got at the moment, Keats is doing well. She may not be setting the world alight for some people, but she's doing well. And I feel like that should be the case, that the players that are doing well and that are having an impact should be the ones that are picked and should be the ones that are being used. And Rachel Williams didn't just get goal of the month or player of the month or any of these sort of things for a giggle. You know, she's actually been having an impact. We wouldn't have had 3 points against Reading if it wasn't for Rachel Williams, you know. So I think, yeah, she's turned out to be an absolute banger of a signing. And, yeah, she needs to be involved. Should she start? No. Will she come on and cause them problems? Absolutely. And knowing Rachel Williams, she'll have watched this, listened to all this grief that Fee's given her, and she's going to bang one in from 30 yards and say, what do you reckon of that and everything? She'll run up to her, she'll be like, yeah, what do you reckon? Hey.
Probably wouldn't surprise
Oh,
me.
yeah, all right, fair play. Rob.
As long as I don't hear that Leah Galton song, I'm happy.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, it's just the most irritating football chant there is out there.
Oh, you've obviously not had many football chants.
We've got a whole song of our own.
The last one you've had.
Drown out everybody else.
Goodness.
Well, that's a whole topic of conversation, isn't it? Worst football chance, but I'm sure we'll be here all night discussing that. I'll come to your question in a second, Sport. I can see that. I'll ask Fiona that in a second. Yeah, obviously, if you haven't already, go and check out Barry's post. There's some interesting conversations going on there. This came from the, I believe it came from the Canada national team women's coach. I think that where this has started is the comments have come from her talking about Leon and her playing something. I think it's the last line, isn't it, that she said in her quote that has made a lot of fans think that it's a big dig at Mark Skinner, saying, I think it's something along the lines of, I want her to control the controllables, which is something Mark Skinner is very commonly known for saying. So I think that's why a lot of United fans have picked up on this, in terms of it looks like it's aimed very much at Mark Skinner. But it's not the first time we've seen this. You know, the Norway coach has been very vocal as well.
Is there not an also point to say that if I've forgotten her name, sorry, what's the Canadian manager's name?
It's Bev something. Priestman, I think.
Priestman, who used to be the English deputy manager.
Yeah, that was before I was into this sort of football, so I can't. These aren't people that I know. But if Bev Priestman is saying she needs to control the controllables, is there also not an argument that if Mark Skinner is saying control the controllables, perhaps maybe Adriana Leon should listen to both of our managers and, you know, control the controllables? Just saying.
Well, I was fully expecting Leon to go out on loan, I've got to be honest. Being World Cup year, she needs minutes. That Canada squad is stacked. I am amazed that she's stayed. If she's not going to get minutes at all, she's not coming on for even 10 minutes at the end. She's not even coming on at all. So I'm a little bit worried I'd be worried for her and a Canadian national team spot. But she stayed. So you'd like to hope that the conversation's been had and that she's going to be involved somehow. Otherwise, I don't know why she would have stayed.
I've got to say, Connor, I can see why Fee might not be a fan of the Leah Galton chant. Because if people are singing it like this, like some sort of record's got stuck, whoa, 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 Super Leah Galton, some sort of remix, then I can see the problem. Yeah, absolutely. I'm joking.
There was a couple of questions for yourself. I'll ask that one first. Many Everton fans going to travel to LSV on Sunday?
The usual bunch will be travelling. So there's about 8 to 10 sort of core fans that travel. Being quite close, I'd expect a few more to travel up as well. And it not being midweek always helps.
Yeah, definitely going to help attendance. I think we're on to the East Stand now, aren't we, attendance-wise? So certainly going to be a good 3,000-4,000 overall, I'd have thought.
I think what a lot of clubs don't realise is we don't get any support with travel. So like Expedia provide buses for Liverpool. So they always tend to have good attendance. We have nothing. We have no support. It's how many people can you fit in a car and go?
I was going to say, we'd well, obviously United have been very lucky, obviously, this season with the bus travel. Obviously, the supporters club do a lot of work with that. Obviously, I know it's been running since the reincarnation of the women's team, but obviously this season in particular, the club helping subsidise a lot of that as well for away travel. So certainly very lucky, and I think more clubs need to be looking into that. Obviously, Everton, I know, are going through a lot of issues with ownership. So you can argue United are, but I think Everton fans are very annoyed at the moment under current ownership. So I can't imagine that's top of the agenda right now.
No, I think all those focuses are currently on helping the men.
Yeah, I believe so. Well, if they get relegated, which is a high possibility right now.
In Dyche we trust.
Well,
I said that about Frankie, so.
Yeah, that was a weird one, wasn't it? Sean Dyche back in the Premier League. That was the other question I was going to ask you. Obviously, we know the big names. We know Tooney, we know Russo and everything else. Where else are you looking on the United's pitch? Well, it's kind of a two-part question, really. Where are you looking at and thinking, okay, we need to try and stop her, obviously, aside from the obvious, and where are you looking at us thinking we can get at you here? We've got a chance of maybe getting it behind, obviously, with the pace of the forward line that you've got as well.
Well, last time I said I didn't feel Keats was a threat, but she likes to put one past us. So Nikita Paris is definitely one that we need to look at holding up. I'm sure Gabby George will have a good go at her. Karen Homeguard getting in there. I think because you've got so much depth in your sort of forward ability, whoever comes on is going to make a difference. Like you said, Rachel Williams coming on as like an impact sub couldn't cause a lot of problems for us. She finds the space that you might not think is there.
Yeah, I can see Rachel Williams coming on and make a bit of an impact, actually.
Especially as legs get tired.
I was going to say, so who are you looking from an Everton point of view that's going to be a threat to us? Obviously, you didn't score in the league game, but scored twice in the cup game. Obviously, I can't remember who we've gone for on the thumbnail, but obviously you got Jess Part there, you got Beaver Jones, Benison, another quality player as well. You've got quality in attack, and look at the goals. Just looking at your last few games, looking at the goals that you're scoring, that they're not like tap-ins and scruffy goals. A lot of the goals you're scoring are very well worked goals as well. So who are you expecting from an Everton point of view to kind of put on a show, I guess is the way of putting it.
Nico Sorensen is desperate for her first goal back. She's getting the assists. She is just looking for that goal. And I think this will be the game where she's coming out there to get it. The other person I think you need to look out for from free play would be Aggie Beaver Jones. She's got the range, she's a forward driver, and she can move that ball quite quickly around defenders' feet. And then from set pieces, you'd be looking at the likes of Meg Finnegan, Karen Homeguard, the extra height. They've been all over those set pieces recently.
I was going to say, so, well, how many set pieces have we conceded this season? Well, I'm pretty sure, didn't somebody say Sunderland was one of the first? It's the first for a long time anyway. I can't remember whether we've conceded a set piece or not in the league. I don't think we've conceded one in the league. I think we have in the Conti, which obviously was Durham.
We've only conceded 6.
Yeah, it was Durham, I think, is the only set pieces we've conceded, and that was direct free kicks. So, yeah, We're quite good at defending set pieces, so I'm not too worried there. But I am worried from our point. No, not worried because of the form we're in. And Barry, I guess this is more for yourself from a United point of view. That I know I asked this earlier in terms of do we need obviously anything to take? Do we need to be a little bit cautious? You know, Everton do have quality players in. Obviously, most United fans are rocking up on Sunday expecting that we're going to win this 2-3, 4-0, whatever. And that's going to be that. But is there that slight air of caution? You know, like I said, Jess Park, quality player. You know, Beaver Jones been mentioned as well. That these players can cause us an issue if we're not on our game here.
100%. You know, listen, when I stood here at the beginning of the season and I said we're going to win the league, you think I just did that thinking that we were going to follow your flimsy rules of sticking the reserves on to win matches? No, absolutely not. You've got to, this is what I keep trying to say. This is why it has to be your strongest team, because you can't afford to take teams lightly. No, we absolutely can't afford to take Everton lightly. If you do that, then you deserve everything that you get. Now, I hope that we didn't do that against Leicester, and I hope that we didn't do that against Reading. I feel more like they were games where the opposition just made it difficult for us. But if you're Everton, based on that form, that's exactly what you're going to try and do. You're going to try and make it difficult for us. You're going to dig in. You're going to try and counter-attack more than anything else. And you're probably not going to sit there and go, do you know what, let's pretend we're Brazil. If they do that, they will get absolutely tonked. We'll put about 10 past them if they come out and play like that. We will. I'm not even being funny, because that's how football works. If you come to LSB against a team that's been as free scoring as we have been this season at times, and you come to play football against us like that, the players that we have got will do that. I mean, I say 10, that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but you know, it will be heavy. But if they come out and do what we know they can do, which is to sit in a bit, frustrate it, make it difficult, try and control the middle of the park, possibly with a park, you know, then they'll be in a situation where they're going to try and create chances, and they will get them. They just might be at a bit more of a premium. It might be from set pieces. We can feel strong about that, but the Sunderland game shows set piece, you've only got to switch off for a second, and before you know it, the ball's in the back of the net. And if that happens, you can then expect for, you know, the bus to come in and just plonk itself in front of the goal. And then it will be difficult because you're in a situation where you've got to try and chase the win. So, you know, I don't think for 1 second that Mark Skinner's going to have sat there and said, oh, don't worry about it, guys. You know, you'll definitely beat them. It's not a problem. And if he has, then he won't now, because he's watched this and he'll have realised that was a terrible idea.
It's a fair point you make. And there's a question again for yourself, you know, are Everton going to come at us, or are they going to sit back? And it's followed up by this comment. Everton manager's comments didn't indicate that they're going to be happy to sit back. Are you expecting to kind of contain and try and stop the game, or do you think that you're going to try and come at us and play us at your own game?
I think we've played a lot more forward football since October, and the last time we've seen you, we're not a team anymore that'll sit back. We want to be driving that ball down. You can hear Sorensen on the side of the pitch getting the girls to move forward. Often, if there's too many back passes, I'll give the girls a good screen to move the ball blinking forward. I wouldn't be happy to watch the girls sit back. We've got the power down the wings. We've got central options to move that ball forwards and try and put that high press on United. Try and force those errors.
I can see. I think you'd be better. I know there's a couple of kind of Barry. You just mentioned it. You know, Sarah's saying I think it's to our benefit when teams sit back, we struggle more potentially. But I was speaking to a player this morning actually, saying about how you should try and stick to the style of play that you're used to, because if you change it for the one-off games when you're playing tougher opposition, it's a style that you're not necessarily used to. And if you get beat heavy anyway, well, what's the point in doing that? You may as well have gone at them and tried to win the game, and at least you might have nicked a couple of goals or got back into the game. So I think that's more. I don't think it's going to be in our benefit. Obviously, if there's more space in behind, like if Galton's playing Garcia, Paris, Russo, whoever will exploit that. But I don't think it's fully in our benefit.
It's something Sorensen said when he came in, that we're not going to change our style of play for who we play against. We're going to play our game. And I think that's good, because last season, under all the management issues, we saw us play various different types of game and try and match the teams we were playing against, and it didn't work for us. But so far we've had success beating Spurs, beating Reading, beating West Ham, playing our style of game.
I've got to say, if I was voting for most peculiar comment that I've seen today, I found my winner. Apologies in advance. But Anton, you've won for me on this one. Everton don't really need a win. We do. Now, you're a sensible guy. I've seen you on here many times before. But that's blown my mind a little bit, that one. I mean, they're fifth in the league. They're 5 points away from City. They're 7 points away from Arsenal. I don't think... I get where you're going at. It's not like they're in a situation where they're fighting for the title. It's outside at best in terms of trying to break into the top three. They've got a chance at catching City. City are by no means at the level that they have been in previous years. And of course, they're not going to get relegated. So I get what you're getting at in terms of, are they coming away with anything spectacular this season? Probably not. But could you imagine a changing room that does that? It'd be brilliant. Don't worry about it, girls. You don't really need a win. They need the win. We don't. And what I'm hoping he's getting at with this is that actually because they don't need the win, they will be more happy to sit back and try and steal the win or settle for a draw. Whereas we do need to go and get the win to win the game. And in that case, if that's what we're going to try and do, we need to be the ones to attack.
I think it's exactly the opposite. I think because there's less pressure on Everton, I think that they're more likely to come and attack us because if they lose, it doesn't make a difference. You know, well, obviously they obviously want to win, but I think it's the opposite of that. I think if they don't think they need to win as much, they're probably more likely to attack us than sit back.
I don't think Everton will be coming into the mindset that this is not an important game that we need points from. We've got West Ham chomping on our heels. We've got City sort of in catching distance, especially with they've had a bit of dip in form recently. Those guys are going to want to go out there and get as many points as possible. They're not going to look at this as like, oh, it's just we're sitting in fifth. That's all we expect from the season. Those guys want to go out there and get fourth.
It's good to have the ambition there because otherwise, I mean, it's a whole other conversation about how the WSL is structured and everything else that, you know, bar the top three, middle of the table, you know, there's nothing really to fight for apart from, well, I don't even think the prize money is that different depending on where you finish. And obviously the one spot to go down, but that's a whole other conversation. But as a club, you want to see, where did you finish last season, just out of interest? Was it fifth or?
Somewhere between 5th and 10th.
We were just out of relegation. It might be 9th or 10th.
You shouldn't have the best starts to last season, did you?
No, and I think Brian never said where in the table he wanted us to end this season, but we've put ourselves above West Ham with a big win over them. We're on positive goal difference at the moment. And why should we not be challenging City?
This is what I mean. We talk about that fourth spot, right? United made that fourth spot their own. You know, we absolutely owned it. From the minute we walked into the WSL, that's the only place we finished. We've never finished higher. We've never finished lower. There was talk of, if we finished fourth this year, us just retiring the fourth position and just calling it the Man United spot so that we could live there perennially. This season feels different. I'd be surprised if we finished fourth, which means it's open. It's up for grabs. It could be City, it could be Arsenal, it could be Chelsea. It's unlikely, but it could be. It could also be Everton. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's only 5 points. I mean, you've still got to play City again, right?
Yeah. The last game of the season for us is City.
There you go. Can you imagine that? Imagine going and, you know, we say that they may not have anything to win for in that respect. That's why I felt like they did. Because if they can get to a point where they're playing City in the last game of the season and they could finish fourth, that's massive for Everton. Massive.
This is where you need to sort of create the Women's Europa League. So there's more to fight for.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, that's a whole other conversation, talking about the restructuring of the league. I agree with that point. You know, we're top of the league now. We're now, at present, the Chelsea of the league, where we're top and everyone then wants to beat you to say, see, we beat top of the league. And it's a big moment for that team. We're now the team that everyone's chasing. So, yeah, I agree. And we've been in this position before. We were in this position at the Casey. Obviously, it kind of fell apart there. We had brief moments near the top and the skin of last season. And obviously, then we fell away. So we have been near this position before. And obviously, under Casey, we were firmly in that position. And it really dropped. And we dropped fully out of the top three again. But we are now officially the team that everyone's chasing. So, yeah, it's a good opportunity to pick up 3 points and add a bit of pressure. Yeah, that's what I mean. If you're on about Everton now, by the way, I don't know which... I think. Oh no, you're on about us because I answered your question. Yeah, do we play Chelsea? before them. Yeah, we're the first game of the weekend, I believe. Well, on the Sunday I'm on about. There's a couple of games on Saturday, isn't there? Which City are actually in, away at Leicester, which you fully expect them to win. So good opportunity to pick up 3 points. And then, Chelsea, and maybe not Chelsea because they're only half an hour after us, but Arsenal certainly. Put some pressure on them and put some, because they're away at West Ham, which is a really difficult place to go and try and pick up points.
I mean, you say that. It might be half hour later than us, but it's still, do you mean half hour after we kick off?
Yeah, so that 12:30, I think they are.
In that case, I retract what I was about to say because it would have been meaningless nonsense.
There we are. Barry, just very quickly, Leah Galton, and obviously it was mentioned a bit earlier on. What do we think's going on there? Because Skinner said that she'd definitely be back for Sunderland, and she wasn't. She's not played any minutes.
My beard and wonder.
What do we think's going on there? Do we think he's just easing her back in? That maybe she's not fully match ready yet? Because we'd expect she's the one player that's just going to come straight back into the side when she's match fit because of her form pre this injury. But I don't know. Do you expect to see her this weekend? There's not been any mention of her again. I don't know what really is going on too much there.
I mean, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been quite a while. I can't actually remember the last time that Leah Galton turned out in a Man United shirt, but it's got to have been early December, late November, maybe. So it has been a long time that she's been out. And part of me would like to think that it's just Skinner easing her back and letting her train and all of that. And that makes sense. Because when we talk about needing depth, that's quite important. And this is why. Because you don't want to be in a position where you have a player and you feel like you have to rush them back because it's all going to hell in a handcart. You don't want that. You would like to be in a position where the person that is stepping up and filling in for that player is doing a good job and the results are still coming in. And I think that is exactly what has happened here. I feel like he trusts Paris and I feel like he trusts the team that he's been putting out. And the team that's been putting out has been, getting wins and stealing the show in that respect. And when I say stealing the show, I mean the points rather than giving us performances that we look at and purr over. But that to me is the big thing. So it's one of those tough ones. In an ideal world, Leah Galton would be starting for me every single game because I think she's absolutely amazing. So far, we've managed to get through pretty much unscathed. At some point, you feel like she needs to be reintroduced, but I feel like I'd be being a bit disingenuous if I just sat here and said, well, yeah, Leah Galton should be able to just walk back into the team when I've sat here and spent all that time saying, well, does Adriana Leon deserve to start in front of Nikita Paris when we're still getting the results and she's still playing well? Let's not forget that in the last 3 games that we've seen her play, in one game she got man of the match, as I said, and in the other game, or player of the match, sorry, I know you get upset when I say that, and in another one she scored 2 goals to get us through to the next round of the FA Cup. So, it's one of those, isn't it? Maybe she needs to be able to earn her position back as well.
No, it's a fair point. Me personally, I'd bring her back in just because of her form prior to her injury. But she's been out.
Formula One.
But she's not played for 2 months now.
Exactly.
It's been a while since we've last seen her. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I'll start Paris. She needs to come on as a sub first, I feel. Test it out.
100%. And yeah, hopefully Galton's back. It would be great to see her back in the squad. Before we get to score predictions and look to wrap this one up, Fiona, one final question for yourself. Sporty's nicked it. What are your hopes for... I was going to actually ask what the mood is around Everton fans for the season so far, but just off the back of that one, then what are your hopes for the remainder of the season? What's a success for you?
Well, we've not got any cups left to fight for. Out of the Conti Cup, out of the FA Cup. So I want to see the girls put all that energy into the league and be fighting and look like a viable option for that 4th place. I want to see us opening that gap up to West Ham, Aston Villa, all those teams that could also reach it. And I just want to see us looking forward and doing the best we can for the rest of the season. We know we've got the results in us. We had three wins, scoring 3 goals in each recently. So why can't we just continue that performance?
No, it's a fair point. Obviously, I'd love to for Everton to nick fourth off City. That'd be hilarious. I can't personally say it because I think City are capable of putting a winning run to the end of the season together, but it's a different City side to the one we've seen over the last few years. So,
or they need a few more injuries. That might be an option.
What's this? The prize money between fourth and fifth? Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I don't think the prize money is the thing. I don't think there's that much of a difference between fourth all the way down to 10th, if I'm being totally honest. Certainly not massive amounts that you'd expect to be seeing. But as you said, it'd just be a massive step forward for Everton. And just some positivity around Everton, I'd imagine. Because at the moment, it's not particularly obviously on the men's side, but the club as a whole seems to be in a bit of disarray from the top downwards anyway. So, yeah, some positivity would be ideal for you, I would have thought.
There's a lot of nerves wrapping around with what happens to the women if the men go down. And I think the women need to go out there and prove themselves as a viable option for the club.
That's where it becomes frustrating, isn't it, when they're so heavily reliant on what the men's sides do, which is a shame, really, because they should be able to stand on their own. But there we are.
That's the way women's football works, isn't it?
In an ideal world, one day. Right, because I know we've got to wrap up shortly because Barry's got to shoot off to another show in 10 minutes' time. I'd like to give him some time to prepare for that. Let's do our score predictions then. Fiona, I'll start with yourself. What do you reckon on Sunday? And any goal scorers that you want to throw out there as well?
As much as I want Everton to win, I'm going to say 3-2 to United. Goal from Nico Sorensen and Karen Holmgaard.
Fair points, Barry.
Well, I'm just trying to think back to what I put on the prediction league. Just give us a second. I'm pretty sure.
I can't put mine in. Got to be honest.
I'm pretty sure I went 4-0 United. And I'm going for an Adriana Leon hat-trick and a Kirsty Hansen header.
We all know that you're awful at this, Barry.
That's why I don't bother taking it seriously to begin with. Listen, I feel Russo will get on the score sheet. I think she's going to have something to say after everything that's happened over the transfer window. It wouldn't surprise me at all if she popped up and scored a goal or two. And I'd like to think that we could get some of the wide players in on that as well. So Paris, Garcia, or Galton. Maybe Galton's come on as a sub and score the fourth. That'd be nice.
What is in that glass, Barry?
That's a great question, right? So this, boys and girls, is a marvellous Scottish drink, and it is called Iron Brew, and it's a delight. It's a delight.
It's got to be the full sugar Iron Brew. None of this diet malarkey. Otherwise,
I'm allowed to go diet because I'm fat enough as it is. Can't be feeding up on. But yes, it's an absolute delight, and if you haven't had it, try it. I'd love to tell you what it tastes like, but I can't.
It just tastes like Iron Brew.
It is absolutely vile. Do not listen to that.
No, my blood bleeds orange.
I can't stand it. A lot of my family's in Scotland as well, and they're like disowning me because
on the day people on this channel take food and drink advice from you will be the day that I leave.
Sainsbury's now sell it in a glass bottle, and it's even better.
I was gonna drink it with a spoon, but you know.
That's it. Sport is with me.
Oh, we know, Barry.
I've got some fans that are backing me up for once. There we are. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of fizzy drinks for the most part, to be fair. Hence my Diet Coke that I've got sat next to me.
If anybody ever looks at our sort of Everton Women's Supporters Club merch that we do a beer mat for Lucy Hope. Let me get it right because she's got married. That actually says Iron Lou on it. And it's branded like an Iron Brew.
We could have done that for Staniforth, but she's gone now, so.
Yeah. And that ridiculous comment that's just come in, you are now going to be blocked from the channel permanently. So, nice. Good luck trying to come back. Right, we shall wrap it up there. Thanks, Fiona, for coming on. Make sure you're following Fiona and make sure you're following the Everton Supporters Club on Twitter as well, by the way, because they do some great stuff as well. Obviously, make sure you follow Barry. He tweets some great stuff sometimes. But it's always good to have a debate. What's he put? Oh, TJ. We're gonna have work. Jess is back on the show on Monday, and I'm going to bring this back up again. I'm sure it'll get into conversation somewhere. So yes, we'll be back again on Monday. The men's channel is live in 5 minutes' time, where you'll see Barry again. So make sure you go and check that out. We'll be talking about obviously the Forest game through to the final now, and obviously talking about Crystal Palace upcoming on Saturday as well. Make sure you're following the new AFU men's Twitter account. Obviously, that is changing. That will be changed literally in the next couple of days now. So make sure you're following the new one because the old one is getting changed. So yeah, we'll be back on Monday for the match reaction. So make sure you check that out as well. It's 7 o'clock for that one. And make sure you're liking the video and subscribing. And we will see you in the next one.